Hello, and welcome to this informative tutorial where we'll be looking at an independently researched security vulnerability, brute force attacks. What is a brute force attack? Brute force attack is a trial and error method used to obtain information such as user passwords. In a brute force attack, automated software is used to generate a large number of consecutive guesses as the value of desired data. So brute force attacks, an attacker decides on intended targets. So for instance, that could be a login form. An attacker has knowledge of one valid piece of information, so it's just one piece that they need. That could, for instance, be a valid password or a valid username. A computer program script is used to automate that valid username or password through with millions of username or password combinations that log in. Once a correct combination of user and password is found, the attacker has access to secure data. So a real-life study of when this occurred, GitHub in 2013. In November 2013, GitHub was subject to a brute force attack. However, this is on a slightly more larger scale than we're demonstrating today. That was with 40,000 IP addresses. We'll just be using the one today. The vulnerability. So we've got a hypothetical scenario today. We've got a hacker has knowledge of a current username on the system, and that username has a weak common password. So by weak and common, we mean a password that falls into the category of dictionary definition. So all lowercase potentially, barely no numbers, no characters of any special note or any characters of special symbols. In this tutorial, we're going to simulate a hacker running the script called Hydra, which is freely available on Linux, which will allow them to try and attempt 1,000 combinations of username and passwords. Hydra will then reveal when there's been a successful username and password combination, and then the hacker, once there's been successful, has access to sensitive data. We've got credit card numbers, email addresses, home and work addresses, which are all potentially subject. So in order to get the tutorial working, it requires two parts. We'll be treating the VM as a virtual machine, which is used to simulate the attack. So what I've done is created a virtual machine, 32-bit Ubuntu. In order to set it up, we need to download a list of passwords to iterate through, and we also need to install the tool Hydra. So I'll show you both of those steps. We also need to set up the client side of things. So install the Git repo, open the project's IntelliJ, ensure the lombok is installed, and annotations are enabled, run the SQL script, and connect IntelliJ to the database. So I'm just going to install the client part first. I'm up to here. All the other steps above are relatively straightforward. So I'll just run the project, we'll identify the client IP address, and we will work through how to simulate the attack essentially. So I'll just click boot run on this application. So we've got the application installed, we've got it connected to MySQL database, Lombok is installed, and plugins via the plugins and annotations are enabled. Just restart there, make sure we've only got one version of the boot run running. Just quickly swap over to a virtual machine I've got set up. So whilst waiting for that to load, on the attacking side, we'll be using a virtual machine. It needs to have access to the internet in order to connect and download to Hydra, which is the tool we'll be using to simulate the attack. Other than that, there's no other things needed on the Ubuntu virtual machine. So here we are, we're just getting the Spring Boot project up and running. There we are, we've got the Spring Boot app running on port 8443. So if we go to Chrome, we'll just refresh this. Excellent. So here we are, we've got behavior activation. This is the project. And so in this hypothetical scenario, to simulate the attack, we need to know which user we're going to attack. So I've set up a sample user that has a very weak password, which we should be able to find using Hydra. So the username is steve@gp.net, and the password is a weak common password, Ronaldo. So just to prove that this works and this is a valid login, if we enter those details, we're accessed and we're logged in onto Steve's account here. So that's essentially the only steps that we need on the client side of things. We just need to make sure that this project's running in IntelliJ, and always good to check that we can work the project just by typing in the user credentials. So we'll go back over to the virtual machine, and here we'll get the virtual machine set up. So as I mentioned on the slides, we need to make sure we've got the list of passwords available and also that we've installed Hydra. So we'll do list of passwords first. I've set up a host share which allow me to just copy this list of top passwords and paste it into documents. I'll supply a link in the annotations and the comments below where you can find a passwords list such as this. It includes about 10,000 passwords of very commonly used passwords. The next step is to install Hydra, so we'll use that via terminal. I'll just copy the command over. So here we are. In terminal, we'll paste this command sudo apt-get install Hydra. I've got to type in the password for the account. Click yes. Again, this will take just a few moments whilst it downloads the package from the servers online. And Hydra is a really effective tool. I would stress that you use it for projects that you've only developed yourself. And it's not used for any military purposes or anything like that. So excellent. We'll just double check we've installed Hydra by typing in the word Hydra. Excellent. So here we are. We've got Hydra installed because it gives us this error page here. Okay, fantastic. So the next step is to cd into where we've saved our top password list. I saved mine in documents, so I'll cd into documents here. We'll do an ls just to show everything that's in here. Fantastic. Now, going back over to the client side, we're back on the application here. We need to know, as part of the information to get Hydra to work, the client IP. So if we go to command line interface here on Windows, we type in ipconfig. That brings up with our IP address here, IPv4. We know the IP address that we want to attack, which is housing our client server, is 192.168.0.46, and we know it's running on port 8443. So we'll just go back